a real Mridanga teacher tells the student to practice this one beat for 6 months before they accept them as a student. Then it changes your whole capability of hitting the drum.
Wow.
Yeah. But that one beat has a few variations. So I learned those variations. One is tere keta, tere keta, tere keta, tere keta. And then one is tere, tere, tere keta, tere, tere, tere keta, tere, tere, tere keta. And then the next one is
double.
Tere keta ja, no, tere keta keta tak. Yeah. Tere keta keta tak. Tere keta ja. Tere tere keta tak. Tere keta ja. And that's the one, what we call the 1-2 beat. You know, like when you're playing kartals, which is actually, that beat, they call it a 1-2 beat, but it's actually 1-2-3.
It's a waltz.
It's a 1-2-3 beat. It's a 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. That's what it is. You know, when we start singing Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Karo E Dase, like that. We call it the 1-2 beat because it's 1-2, 1-2. But it's actually 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And then what we call the 1-2-3 beat is actually a 3-4 beat. Wait. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Yeah, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is like all that I learned in my whole life.
Wow.
But I got pretty good because I could, you know, I practiced those and played for many years, and then I copied what I heard and what I saw. So I can play pretty good. In fact, I was Gurudev's Mridanga player on his first tour. There was another devotee too who brought his Mridanga, but I was playing for the first couple of years. But then the next generation started to take over, and they were like super Mridanga players. You know, now we see here we got our Jaigo and you know and Gadadhar and all the others. And I should actually sit down and learn a few beats from them and practice it a bit because, you know, I'm pretty lame in comparison now. But isn't that the nature of the material world? Huh? Even up to Lord Brahma? Yes? Lord Brahma was thinking he was it. Right? He came to visit Krishna in Krishna's palace in Dwarka. And he told the gatekeeper, "Oh, please inform Krishna that Brahmaji has come." And then the guard and the servant went and informed Krishna. Came back, and then this is actually told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know that this pastime was told by Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami to show the unlimited opulence of Krishna. Yeah. So then he came back and he reported to Brahma, Krishna is asking which Brahma you are. So then Brahma, he says, I'm the four-headed Brahma of this universe. Then he went back and then he allowed Brahmaji to enter. So Brahmaji entered, but you know, Krishna's what's it called? His room where he sits has council room or like assembly room. That assembly room can accommodate any size. It can become almost infinite, right? So when Brahmaji came in, then he bowed down, and then at that, I forget what was the reason, but Krishna suddenly called all the Brahmas from all the universes. And they started to arrive. They just all started arriving. And there were millions of them. And they didn't just have 4 heads. Some had 100 heads, 1,000 heads, 10,000 heads. And it turned out, apparently, that Brahma, with 4 heads, this is the smallest universe. So now Brahma began to understand, oh, okay, I surrender. So that's the nature of the material world. Nobody's on top. Because there's always another person above you, isn't it? Right? Yeah. All right, I'm going to do a very brief, sorry I got caught up. We were having a discussion, I lost track of the time. So, Gurudev Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Trise Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vrindai Tulsidebai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare My Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of my beloved Diksha and Siksha Gurus, Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad, Paramahansas Tatarasata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad, Paramahansas Tatarasata Sri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta, Narayana Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to all of my Sri Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas, all the Vaishnavis. Now we were reading the list. Do you remember what the list was of about?
Grihastas, duties.
Yes.
We're at letter D, I think.
Yeah. So the category that is being discussed is the behavior and the conduct of grihastas. What is sadvritti, or proper behavior? So the conduct of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his bhaktas is the ideal example by which we can properly understand this. We can understand what? Sadvritti, proper behavior. Okay? For this reason, their conduct is briefly described below. The first category was A, in relation to marriage and the maintenance of a family. Second, B, in relation to knowledge and education. C, in relation to serving guests. D, in relation to virtuous qualities. E, grihastas are to be completely dependent upon the desire of Bhagavan. Oh, okay, that's where we are now. We're at E. Yes. So just a little bit from the last category, F. No, D. It is necessary for all householders to possess the quality of being compassionate to others. Among all the types of compassion in this world, engaging the living entities in Krishna Bhakti is the topmost. That's what we're engaged in, right? Trying to help the jivas to come to Krishna Bhakti. That's the Hare Krishna movement. right from the very beginning. Even the youngest disciples, the newest ones, immediately being sent out to try to help the jivas, by giving them literature, by performing street sankirtan, by directly speaking with them. That was our life. We didn't have any other engagements. Whatever other engagements were there were meant to support this, right? Preaching mission. So that's the most important, it says, amongst all the types of compassion. Krishna Bhakti, to engage the living entities in Krishna Bhakti is the topmost type of compassion. Householders will themselves engage in Krishna Bhakti and also endeavor to bring others to this path. So, there's an instruction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is pretty much his number one. Actually, there's 2 or 3 different verses in which he himself is giving his instruction. But in one verse, he says, Bharata bhumite manushya hoila janmajar, janma sartak kari, karo para upakar. You know the meaning, Mike? Sorry.
For one who's been so fortunate to take his birth in Bharata Bhumi, which we know is present-day India, they should make their own life perfect and then go out to the world and spread knowledge of how to make one's life perfect.
Okay, well, the literal meaning, as you said, Bharata Bhumite, Bharata Bhumi. So in one context, Bharata means India. Even India today is known as Bharat. But previously, when we studied the 5th canto, we understand that this tract of land upon which we are, this planet, is also called Bharat Varsha. Varsha means like a land, an area, landmass, Varsha. So in one sense, this planet is also called Bharat. So Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse when he was preaching to the Indian people, especially, right? Because they know. Bharatu bhumite manushya hoilo janma jar. That person, jar, who, manushya janma, who takes human birth. Manushya means human, and janma means birth. So Bharatu bhumite manushya hoilo janma jar. Anyone who has been born as a human being in Bharat, he must do 2 things. Janma sartak kari. So the word sartak means to make your life fulfilled. Fulfill the purpose of your birth. Okay, janma sartak kari. And the second thing, karo para upakar. So upakar means benefit, welfare work. Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to use the term welfare work. Do welfare work for the jivas. Karo para upakar. Now para means others. Do good for others. Give the benefit to others. First one is janma sartak kari. Make your own life successful. Prabhupada would say it like that. What is success of the human birth? Krishna consciousness. There is no other success. Everything else is a failure. That's the only purpose of getting a human body. To revive our eternal relationship with Krishna. There is no other purpose. Everything else is to facilitate that. Whatever work a person does in the Varnashram Dharma, how to feed his family, how to feed himself, how to get the necessities of life and so forth. And even Kam, Dharma, Artha, Kam, even gratifying the senses, all of this. The only purpose of getting a human body is for attainment of liberation from birth and death, liberation from birth and death, and attaining one's eternal relationship with Krishna. There's no other purpose of the human form of life. Now, when Mahaprabhu was telling to Rupa Goswami how many species of life there are, and how many species of human beings there are, and how half of them are uncivilized, and then out of those, the majority of them are dharma dvajis, meaning that they might practice some religion, but just only by, showing a flag, I'm of this religion. But then it comes to Vaishnavism. That's actually the purpose of a human birth, is to become a Vaishnava. Because what is a Vaishnava? What is a Vaishnava? If we were to be asked the question, somebody came up to you and asked you, can you please tell me what is a Vaishnava? What would you answer?
Someone who worships Vishnu is usually the definition.
Yes. Who is Vishnu? Is Krishna one of the demigods? There are many gods. There are many deities. Those who worship demigods, they're not Vaishnavas. Now today, in general, yoga studios and so forth, they don't have enough proper knowledge because they don't have proper guru and they don't study the Shastras properly. So they like to equate all the time this deity, his name, Durga, Ganesh, Shiva, like that. And they just, any chanting is okay, is good. They're not Vaishnavas. They're not Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is one who worships Vishnu, and Vishnu is who? Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is the supreme being, the supreme being from whom all other beings emanate. So in the material universe creation, Vishnu with 4 arms is the main personality who is responsible for the creation, Vishnu. So a Vaishnava is a human being who has now come to this platform of performing bhakti to Bhagavan Vishnu. You see? Yes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all Vishnu forms, because he's Krishna himself. He's the avatari. He's the source of all other avatars and incarnations and expansions. So Krishna is that personality who has come in this Kali Yuga as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he has combined with his complete Shakti, his potency in the form of Srimati Radhika. And that's why he's golden color. And that's why he has her moods and her bhavs, you see. Krishna is trying to experience and taste the love of Srimati Radhika. But he can only do it if he becomes Radhika. So therefore Radhika said, okay, I give you my bhavs, and I'm covering you with my golden color, which is my very self. So it's not any exaggeration when our acharyas say, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. That Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna. So this is the highest form of Vaishnavism. One who worships the highest form of the Supreme Absolute Truth from whom everything has come, as Bhagavan, his Bhagavan feature, his Supreme Personality of Godhead feature, that is a Vaishnava. But in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, there's whole Vaikuntha planets bigger than all of our universes. Entire unlimited planets in Vaikuntha. And there, the predominating form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Narayan, 4-armed. See? But beyond that, in the higher, up above that, is Goloka Vrindavan. And there is the abode of that original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So someone who embraces this understanding and surrenders from their heart to that supreme form, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the highest type of Vaishnava. Because there are worshippers of all the different forms of Bhagavan. Even Lord Nrsingadev, so many temples all throughout India of Lord Nrsingadev. You know, and they are devotees of Lord Nrsingadev. So many temples of Lord Ramachandra, Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, so many all throughout India. Probably lakhs and lakhs of temples, huh? But that form is still an expansion of the original form. Although Lord Ram is so attractive, Gurudev said, you have to be very careful, because if you see Lord Ram's beautiful form, you will just be too much enchanted. Yes, so a devotee is a human being who has embraced the utmost purpose of the human form of life, to attain their relationship with Krishna. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that instruction that if someone is born in India, if someone is born in Bharat Bhumi, well, along with that birth, they have a very great responsibility. This is what Srila Prabhupada used to try to remind his Indian congregations that he would speak to, that you were born in Bharatvarsha. This is your duty. So, there are two duties that our whole life has to be dedicated towards, not just one of them. We have to do both of them. Mahaprabhu wanted everyone to do both. But the first one is Janma Sartakari, to make your Janma, your birth, successful. Fulfill the purpose of your birth. And then Karo Para Upakar, help others. So a real devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will always be a preacher. Even if they're not going out, to the public, but they're a preacher. Because they understand that whoever they come in contact with, it is their responsibility to try to help them, those jivas. Now we come to the second quote that Mahaprabhu told. Jare dako tare kaho, Krishna Upadesh. He told this in South India. It was the Mahaprabhu was moving on his tour of South India on foot. And he would come to some place and the people would become so attracted, and especially the Brahmins in the village would invite Mahaprabhu to stay, and he would give them prema. Yes. And then those people who received prema would go to their villages, and then anyone who saw them also received prema. Like a domino effect. Yeah. Very powerful. So one Mahaprabhu was leaving from one village. I don't remember the name of the devotee. He had just given them prema. And he was following Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu was going to leave. And then that devotee was feeling so bereft. So then Mahaprabhu told him, because now he was thinking that he's losing the association of Mahaprabhu. Then Mahaprabhu told him, my instruction to you is as follows. Jare dako tare kaho, Krishna Upadesh. Whoever you see. Deko means to see. Also means whoever you meet. Tare kaho. Tell to them Krishna Upadesh. Krishna Upadesh. The instructions of Krishna. Tell them about Krishna. And that's exactly the basis of the Hare Krishna movement in the West. Started in that way. Because Prabhupada followed that and told whoever he met about Krishna. Yes? He's the one that started it. He told them about Krishna. And then Mahaprabhu said in the second line, tell them Krishna Upadesh, the instructions of Krishna, like we're studying Upadesh Amrita, the nectar of instruction, Amrita. So Krishna Upadesh means tell them about Krishna, tell them Krishna's own words, tell them Srimad Bhagavatam, all of these things, Krishna Upadesh. Then Mahaprabhu told something very grave. Amar Agyai. It is my order to you. Agyai means order. A superior gives an order to an subordinate. So it is my order. Amar Agyai, Guru Hoya. You become Guru. It is my order. You become Guru. Guru Hoya. And as Guru, acting as Guru, then tar e desh, save this land, save your land, save the people. Tar means deliver this land, deliver them from this material existence, give them Krishna. That's the whole theme of the Krishna consciousness movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These two verses. You see? So, that's why we study Upadeshamrita. How are we going to make our life perfect? That's the first thing we have to do. Make our life perfect. Become pure Vaishnava. Enter Shuddha Bhakti. And then help others. So, that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur here is saying that it is necessary for all householders to possess the quality of being compassionate to others. So Prabhupada didn't limit the preaching mission to sannyasis, brahmacharis, renunciate people. No. He was very proud actually that his movement of Western disciples consisted mostly of householders going out and preaching. Householders who were starting temples here and there. They took the responsibility, and they started temples. It was a very amazing era. We're sitting with one of them here, Rishabdev Prabhu. Long time temple president of Laguna Beach, trained so many devotees. Still, he has so many very close friendships with devotees who were with him in, 70 or 69 when he started that temple?
The temple started early 70 and
then you came.
77.
Right, so 7 whole years. But there were so many householder disciples, they went to foreign lands even. I mean, they flew off to Australia, like Bhagavan, he went to France after he started the temples in Detroit. It was like Manjari, we were all reminiscing the other day, and stayed there all those years, preaching. So the Krishna consciousness movement was made up of, we considered them to be the senior devotees, and they were for that time period, the senior devotees. They had a very surrendered mood towards Srila Prabhupada. This I remember. All of us had very great admiration for them. And they carried the responsibility of looking after the temples and conducting the Sankirtan movement. I mean, in those early 70s, we were always getting letters from Srila Prabhupada when I was in Detroit, when I was in Chicago, in New York, and letters would come from Prabhupada, written by, in answer to the temple president or one of the devotees, And Prabhupada was always very happy to get the reports. I mean, he was literally like a general, who's getting the information from the field of battle and giving the directions. This is what you should do now, It was so amazing, period. It will never be repeated again, at least not in exactly the same way, but there's a lot of preaching and pioneering coming, a lot, on a whole nother level. That was the very beginning, but it's going to become more and more refined and more extensive preaching. Everything's being set up for that. We were just talking. I've talked about this before. But this astrological period, everything's being set up for that, for a grand expansion of Mahaprabhu's movement. So we have to hold down the fortress during this time and do our bhajan and try to preach as best we can, you know. But we should prepare ourselves. We should always be preparing ourselves to take on more responsibility and to work very, very hard to represent Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement and give this mercy to the jivas, give the holy name to the jivas who are really suffering a lot. Yeah.
I once asked
Mike?
We were in the airport once and I asked Srila Gurudev, I said, does that preaching, will it include the Muslim countries in the future? And he said to me, he said, yes, he goes, in every place there are some with the adhikar to understand what Lord Chaitanya has come to give in every place.
Actually, Prabhupada, I remember hearing how Prabhupada made some statement like, anyone who goes to the Muslim countries to preach, I take the dust from my feet on my head. And he was also very serious about the communist bloc. He also, I remember Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he came back to see Prabhupada after going across the, what was it called?
The Iron Curtain.
The Iron Curtain, into Eastern Europe, right? And they were going for the purpose of getting orders of Srimad Bhagavatam sets for libraries and universities and stuff. That's what they were mainly doing. But they were undercover. They weren't wearing devotee clothing because it was illegal. And I heard stories of how he used to go into the bathroom on the trains and stuff and just lock the door. Nobody else could come in. And he would just chant there. He would do his japa there, And anyway, I just heard the story that when he returned after one of those journeys, came back to the Bhaktivedanta Manor in England, and Srila Prabhupada came up to him and just embraced him. He was so happy. That devotees were taking such responsibility to even go to very dangerous places, So that's the mood, that's the pioneering mood that was there, yeah. But that's going to have to become the same thing again, maybe even more intense, But Krishna is the controller. And just to complete here, the foremost way to bring others to this path, foremost way, how to bring others to this path, is to instruct them to constantly chant Krishna Nam. Number one way, foremost way. Detrimental association, which is called kusanga, it should always be avoided. Detrimental association. And in the association of pure devotees, one is to hear and chant Bhagavan's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. But bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. We read that, the last thing yesterday. And again, it's the last thing today. I think that's because Krishna wants us to really understand this point. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book, Bhakti Tattva Viveka, they even printed it on the back cover. Bhaktivinoda Thakur there is warning against the association of what are called Prakriti Sahajya. He's pointing out two categories of so-called devotees. One is a Mayavadi, and one is a Prakriti Sahajya, who wears the dress of Vaishnava and so forth, different symbolism, but they're Prakriti Sahajyas. He said, the Mayavadi, he is not as dangerous as the Prakriti Sahajya. Why? Because you can easily identify him. This is Mayavadi, okay, I don't associate with you. But the Prakriti Sahajyas, they sometimes dress as devotees, act like devotees, but their association is extremely detrimental. You see? we can think that this is not just in Bengal. Prakriti Sahajiyas are everywhere. In our movement. Okay? They don't follow regulated principles. That's one of the main symptoms of a Prakriti Sahajiya. That they try to act as if they have so much devotion, they sing kirtan, this, that, but they can't even follow the regulated principles of a human being. So, here we're reading it. Bhakti is spoiled by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees. Well, they may say, well, I'm a devotee. You may be a Prakriti Sahajiya devotee, but you're not a pure devotee, so I can't associate with you. I don't want to hear your kirtan. You smoke ganja, you have illicit sex, you do this, that, in the name of being a devotee. So, okay, dandavats from afar, you see. So by doing so, by participating in the kirtan of non-devotees, by doing so, the bondage of material existence tightens even more. You see? So that's all we'll read for today. But just for a little taste for tomorrow, the letter E says, Grihastas are to be completely dependent upon the desire of Bhagavan. That's their quality. Gaur Premanande. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo